Alrighty, so now we're going to go over some common problems that we have with this machine. First and most common is control board. So if you're pulling the trigger and you hear a clicking noise, it's going to be a control board. It can also be a drive motor, and we'll get into those. But 95% of the time, it's going to be that control board, and we're going to show you how to change those. First, you got to take off the shell. There's just a bunch of screws up top and on the side here. So you just got to take your handle off. Okay, and then there's the screws all around the top. Just take them all off, and then this guy just kind of pops right out. All the screws are out. Get your tug. Now, first and most important thing is when you take your shell off, make sure your machine's completely off and make sure it's unplugged. The boards are still live, so you can easily electrocute yourself. So let's just make sure it's all off. Here's your control board here, and here's your drive motor. If your drive motor sounds really weak, it could be the drive motor. So a way to test that is you have your two wires connected to your drive motor here. So you just peel back the yellow, and you grab a 9-volt battery and 2 wires. Connect one to the positive, like so. One to the negative. And if you hear that, it's not going to be your drive motor. It's going to be your control board, and we're going to go over on how to switch that. First thing is take a picture. I recommend taking a picture so you know exactly where you take everything out of, and it doesn't hurt. So what you're going to do is just undo all this. It's just plug and play. There might be some glue, so if you have to use a little plier or whatnot, I recommend using those. But so that's all there, and then now there's 4 little screws, 1 in each corner. So you just take those off. Alrighty, so now that we have our control board, our new control board on hand, we're going to replace it. So you just take your little screws, you can put them back into place, or you can plug them in first. It's all however you want to do it. I don't do all 4 right away. I just do the top 2. Okay, so now you just kind of look at your picture, and you plug them in where they're supposed to go. Okay. So now you just kind of double check, make sure they're all in there, which they are. Okay. Then you can plug it back in, like so. Turn around. Just be careful. You can test it without the shell on. Just don't touch anything there. Okay, so if it wasn't working before, it should. So you should be able to pull your trigger, and wires feeding, and your drive motor's kicking. So I'll show you the drive motor kicking right here, and wire speeds change, and that means it's all good. Next common problem is gas leaks. If you hear a gas leak inside the machine, you want to make sure, if you go in this little slot right here, make sure this is plugged in all the way. It easily pops out, so you just make sure it snaps in place. Tug right there. Make sure all your connections are good. So you have that connection, you have this little couplet right here, you have into your gas valve right here, and your gas valve into your gas connector on the outside. One way to check that I like to use is I disconnect my gas, and then I'll hook an air compressor up to it. It's just easier here with the air, and you're not wasting gas. Make sure your hose is all good. Make sure there's no holes in that. Make sure it's all tight here if your gas valve is working there. And that's pretty much it for gas leaks. Third problem is you have your front display board. So there's 2 things that can go with this. Either it won't show display, which tells you it's all your front board, or it could show you numbers that don't seem right. So that could either be this board or your control board. It's good to check both of them. The other thing is front knobs. People crack them or break them. So I'm going to show you how to replace your front board and your knobs. So for the front board, there's just four screws in the front here. Pull that off, and you got your 2 cables here. So take those off. they had a little glue on them. So then you can just replace that. That whole piece you can replace. To put a new one on there, you just snap them back in. Like I said, if you need to, take a picture for everything, because wrong connections can blow boards. So it's very important you put them back in where they're supposed to go. Let me just put these 4 screws back in. All right, for the knobs, this little yellow line on these ones, pull that, and you can pull that off, and it just snaps right off and on. So that's how you take that off, and then there's a set screw in there. Take a screwdriver, loosen that up. So then you have this, so if you have a cracked knob, and then put it back on. Put that in there. Get your set screw. Put that back on. And snap that guy back into place. There's a little groove spot for it. And there you go.